Now I'm very excited to welcome back one of our first guests on this podcast way back in 2017, Mr. Marco D'Angelo from WagerTalk. You can follow Marco on X at Marco in Vegas. Marco, my man, how are things been since I saw you this summer at Circa on contest weekend?
Well, it's doing good. I am one of the people that didn't get knocked out of Survivor last week. It's because I wasn't in it. Everybody else got knocked out.
Nothing to feel bad about then, right?
No, what a bloodbath last Sunday.
I survived, but
you did good. Good for you.
I did. I don't know if I would have if I didn't burn the Cardinals week 1, but you never know what your mindset's going to be. But that's why you also don't be like, oh, I didn't do it because of this. People being all started. It's like, dude, it's Survivor. I don't need to hear your bullshit. I mean, we all have different reasons for making our picks, and it's just such a crapshoot out there. And I'm sorry, Zona was in a great spot and they just failed. It's just the way it is. It's life, and it's happened to me. I was out week 2 with the Ravens last year, and I completely expect to be out next week. Though it's going to be tougher for me next week. So I'm, mindset's not it. Don't get me wrong. I plan on playing to win, and that's going to be my mindset. But my expectations, I don't want to feel this pain that everybody's feeling. I got to get in my head that this is probably not advantage, but I'll give her hell and see what we can do. But what's even more quirky is the quarterbacks in the AFC North, Marco. I mean, Cooper Rush, Aaron Rodgers, Dylan Gabriel, and now Joe Flacco is back on the back. What is going on here, man?
It's like, if you ever been riding with your wife in the car and she sees a garage sale sign, and she's got to stop and see somebody else's junk. That's what the AFC North has come to. Because, first of all, what's the unwritten rule? Whenever you trade somebody away, a key player, and not that Joe Flacco was, going to set the world on fire or anything, but you don't trade somebody to one of your competitors that they feel that that's an advantage, that they need it and it's an upgrade for them. You don't trade within the division. That's the part that just is crazy as far as the Cleveland side goes. From the Cincinnati
side, they didn't get much. They went from a 6th to a 5th round pick. It's not like you got much from it.
But why did you think that this was the answer for you? I know Jake Browning has been horrible, but my God, Joe Flacco. I joked when you and I were going back and forth yesterday. I said the one thing that's, the market has moved is Joe Flacco's life insurance policy went up because of that offensive line in Cincinnati. He's going to get killed. But you know what? Maybe he'd catch lightning in a bottle. Remember when he came to Cleveland the first time, he had, half a dozen games where they were lighting it up. Now, granted, that was a couple years removed, but, then it went sour in the playoff game. But I don't know. There's a lot of talent on that offense, but it doesn't reside on the offensive line for Cincinnati. And as far as the Steelers go, this sums up the division. The Steelers had a bye week last week, Kiev. They gained a half a game on the entire division.
They sure did.
By not playing, okay? So
you could just only play the rest of the year. You'll be great.
That's what it is with as far as how bad things are in the AFC North. And I really thought this, could have been a competitive division, with Pittsburgh, Cincy, and, Baltimore. But we'll see how this plays out. I'll have a little more to say later in the show.
Oh, I'm sure, because that brings us to the next question about the AFC North. And I'm curious what your thoughts on who wins it. I mean, I never thought that I'd see the Ravens this bad, but what's funny is that I don't think people are valuing Roquan Smith enough to this Ravens defense. He is just the heart and soul of this defense. And without him, it's funny. We move points mostly for quarterbacks, but dude, I mean, if Roquan's not worth 1.5 points at least, I don't know what I'm doing, because I think he is, and it showed last week. And now they're 1-4. Do they come back and win it, or are you going with the old Steelers? It just always works out for Tomlin. 8.5 wins every single year. Just throw it out there. I can predict what the books are going to put on next year. 8.5 wins, my friend. Throw it out there.
Well, I will say this much. I'll give you a one-sentence answer on who I think is going to win the AFC North, and then with the questions you sent me, you'll see in the next, because it's kind of correlated parlay, my friend, when we get to the next one. Baltimore comes back and wins this division. They'll have time to get things right. They're still the best team. Now, granted, that Baltimore team defense has been Swiss cheese all year. And it started in week 1 when they had that, monumental collapse against Buffalo, when they were drilling Buffalo the entire game. And yes, if you sounds like sour grapes to you, it is. I had Baltimore in that game on that Sunday night game. But I think there's enough time in this division, and the division is not stacked. And because of the schedule, if you play it forward, when Baltimore will play Pittsburgh twice, it's over the last 6 weeks of the season, when they should have things, the ship righted and injuries and everything sorted out.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking at Baltimore after the Rams, after the bye. Yeah, I think that's when you do attack them. Maybe you can do it now with a little parlay action too, or whatever you want to team them with. But, I do still think the Baltimore can win, 8 out of 10 games. I mean, probably about 10 will be left right after the bye, something like that. And that'll be enough because, we get them to 9 or 10 wins. And maybe they do even better. So I don't know. It's a team that can be unstoppable when they want to be with Lamar, but they definitely need some of those pieces back, like Hamilton. So we'll wait it out. I mean, if I'm Baltimore and if I'm not playing Lamar, to be honest, Marco, why would I play Roquan? I'm going to lose. I don't want to injure him anymore. I feel like you treat this like another preseason game like they did last week. Cooper Rush is terrible. Look at these backup plans that the AFC North had too. Like Cincinnati's backup plan with Browning, and no backup plan with the Ravens, because Cooper Rush is nothing like Lamar. It doesn't run.
Exactly. At least when they had Tyler, Huntley there, he could run the offense in a similar, he was the poor man's version of Lamar Jackson. He could run when he needed to. But Cooper Rush is a completely different style of quarterback, and that's not what that offense was designed, to do. But it's just one of those things that Pittsburgh, don't get misled by the 3-1. Okay, I'll have more to break that down. But Baltimore comes back and wins this division. Mark it down.
All right. Well, there you go. I don't disagree with that at all. Let's move on. It's fine. I'd like to ask you if anything's changed. We've talked about this over the years. When do you make your bets in the NFL? Has things changed over the years with how injuries come out? If I want to be making money and at least try to have an edge, when's the best time to place your bets?
Well, it's always been a situation in years past that you looked at these markets and you want to be first to market. You want to get the best of numbers. And so you were playing games early in the week. Now what has happened with the NFL, and you're seeing it in college too, because there's so many syndicates, and the books don't move on money. They move on seeing it move somewhere else. Because you look at an odds screen, if you buy any of the live versions, once you see one of the key books move a number, you see all the other books move the same, okay, within, 60 to 90 seconds. And that's the automation of today. So what ends up happening now is the syndicates aren't betting as early in the week because the limits are lower at the beginning of the week, college and NFL. And sometimes they will make, what is known as a head fake. They'll bet one side early in the week just to get all the steam chasers jumping on board and piggybacking. And then they come back later in the week whenever the limits are higher and get the team they really want at a better number. So later in the week is the truest number.
Yeah, later in the week's the truest number for sure, and it gets pretty stale, and that's when the contest numbers are out, which is tough. That makes it so it's more lucky involved. It's like I wish I could play contests on when I see a line off in the beginning of the week and know which way it's going to go, or if I can kind of try to sniff out a head fake too, like you mentioned, it's a lot more advantageous. But that's why, services like WagerTalk are out there to let people know what's going on. It's like, this is how it works here. And you put up a lot of great shows that have topics like this. And I think that's fantastic for, everybody out there. So we really appreciate that. Sticking with the NFL, buy low, sell high, my friend. Stock market, this is what we like to do. And just a little exercise. It doesn't even have to be a bet you're making this week, but maybe you're thinking a little too much values coming in on this team. Anything that you think that you want to buy low or sell high on?
Well, again, I don't want to keep residing in the AFC North, but I really do think you've got two teams that the public perception is completely opposite on of what it should be. Everybody's down on Baltimore, okay? And I think you're going to get some good spots to play Baltimore in the near future. And if you're a long-term guy that likes to bet in-season futures, which, I told you that whenever we did the podcast in the summertime, I'm not a big futures guy at the beginning of the season, unless you're taking somebody to win the Super Bowl or maybe the AFC conference, NFC conference, where you are going to get plus money. I don't want to bet season win totals where, you might be laying 130 or something on a number and they're holding your money for 6 months in essence before you get paid. That's just not my favorite style of betting. But I do think Pittsburgh is overvalued right now. The public perception on Pittsburgh is wrong. They've got 2 wins. Both wins weren't pretty. They were the beneficiary of turnovers in those games. Aaron Rodgers in the offense has not clicked yet. Now we'll see coming off the bye week if they worked anything else in there, but the offensive line for Pittsburgh is not good. And when they start to face some of these better defenses, and actually one of them is going to be this week, they're going to face the Browns. As much as we want to laugh and make fun of the Browns, the one thing they do have is a good defense. And Myles Garrett is going to put pressure on Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, he doesn't have that. He was never a big runner, but he had the ability, like a Roethlisberger, to extend the play enough to get to the open receiver. With that offensive line, that's not going to happen a lot. Okay, he's going to have to get rid of the ball quickly. And I just don't see the Steelers, valued the way a normal 3-1 team would be. In Baltimore, there's going to be value because they're undervalued. Now, the only thing I will say, the one thing that concerns me about Baltimore is, obviously you talked about the defense, but I'm more concerned that there's a growing disconnect between Lamar Jackson and John Harbaugh. You've seen some shenanigans on the sidelines, some heated discussions between the two during games, and that's always a concern. If they get that worked out, I think they'll be fine second half of the season. And 9 wins may very well win this division. But if you fast forward ahead, Kiev, look at the Steelers' last 6 weeks of their schedule, what it is and what it consists of. They start on November 30th with playing Buffalo at home. We know how good Buffalo is. Then they go right after that and have to play at Baltimore. They got a soft game with Miami, and they got to turn around and go back on the road to Detroit, and then they finish the season with your hated rival Cleveland and Baltimore on the end of it. So Baltimore is going to have 2 cracks at them in the last 6 weeks, and that's the best time for Baltimore to face them because they're banged up right now. You would assume them to be, at better strength and all the problems worked out by December.
I agree. Yeah, it's a great buy low team is Baltimore, and that would be mine too. If I wasn't going to go to this one, I'm going to go with the Cardinals after what happened to them. Now Murray. I mean, you do not bet them as a favorite. Let's face it. They play this prevent soft defense, but dude, if you just look at the first halves of these games, they're blowing out Carolina Panthers. I was at the game with my son, blowing out the Titans. Should have been up 27-8. The San Francisco game, flag. Yeah, changed the outcome of that game. They should have an almost perfect record right now, and they are just a much better team than what is getting credit for. They're poorly coached, though. Gannon has moved down in my coaching thing, and I don't even want to get into how pissed I am about him apologizing for chewing out some freaking player that's making $1 million. It's like, dude, are you serious? Have you ever went to a factory and looked at what a manager says to his freaking guys at a factory? It's a hell of a lot worse than what Gannon did to a guy that completely blew a game making millions of dollars. It's like absolutely ridiculous crap. And I lost some respect for him, but I'll get to this game. I think Kyler Murray, and he's got to play. He's got his foot injury and he's sitting out today, but so these guys sit out just to not re-aggravate it. And then, Friday's the day where you can really tell. I still think he's going to play. We'll get to that game. I'm buying low on Arizona Cardinals, sell high. Whew. This is tough. I got a few. And I've been on the Jaguars this year a lot, almost every week. Last week I was on them too. I'm probably selling high on them because they still look incompetent. I mean, the way they scored that last touchdown, just the drives, it's like they're blowing like the whole clock. Lucky they got those 2 passes down. And don't get me wrong, I think that they're an improved team and they finally might have a competent coach, but I'm gonna sell a little bit high on them, and I think what you said too, and the AFC North and Steelers, and they're laying a lot of points coming up. I'm not so sure that's right. We'll get to these games, but I'm going to sell a little bit high on the Jaguars right now. I do think the Colts are pretty legit. I mean, slightly sell high on the Colts, but we'll get to that game. Starting with Denver versus the Jets, because this show comes out after the Giants-Philly game. Jets are going to be plus 7.5. The total of this game is 43.5. This game is in London, and it's an interesting spread. It seems like there's still a little bit of market love for an 0-5 team, Marco.
Yeah, the Jets, it seems like every week when I do radio shows here in Vegas and we, interview some of the sportsbook directors, it's the same thing. They're telling me they're getting sharp action on the Jets. They're getting sharp action on Cleveland, and the results just keep being, the same thing. Their advanced metrics, whatever. I just don't buy it. You have to sometimes go with the eye test. And I say never overreact to one game. You got to look at the whole body of work. And the whole body of work for the Jets has not been good. This particular game on Sunday, I'm not involved in the game itself, but I am involved in the total. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. Denver, what they want to do, and I think they should do, and they should be able to have success doing it, is you need to run the football in this game for the Jets, against the Jets, I should say. In Denver, it's a bad scheduling spot for them. They had to, come from Denver, go to the East Coast to play last week. Then they got to go on the road again. They've been making, some serious, cross-country trips the Broncos have done. They have an elite defense, though. And that's the strong suit of this team. So if you want, because of the travel, you don't, want to be going up and down the field. You want a more methodical approach, especially since, we talked about it when we did your show back in, summertime in August when you were here at the Circa. I talked about the sophomore jinx with all these rookie quarterbacks. Bo Nix has definitely taken a step backwards this year. We saw that with CJ Stroud a couple of years ago, what happened to him in his second year. And I think that Sean Payton will want to protect him. And by protecting him is running the football, shorten the game so that he's not getting stuck in long down and distances where they've got to force throws. And that's when he's made, some bad decisions. He's looked good at times. He's shown, what we saw from Bo Nix last year at different times. But too often this year, he's been very mediocre at best. So I'm on the under Sunday in that one.
All right, the under for Marco. This Jets team reminds me of that Falcons team that Sharps loved, that just couldn't get in the end zone, but their numbers and their EPA and everything looked awesome, right, Marco? And that's what it is with this Jets team, and that's why the Sharps keep loving them. But it's hard to factor in incompetence when you're getting penalized 10 to 13 times a game, when you're fumbling the ball all over the place, when the team kind of quits on you, your coaches. Man, that was a bad hire. I did not like that hire. That's what we're dealing with. You have a Justin Fields guy that if he has his game where he's running free and running people open because they have to spy him a little bit, that's good, and that they can be very, very dangerous. I don't think I picked one survivor play against the Jets yet, believe it or not, because they scare me a little bit. But does that make me want to invest my money in them? No. because the incompetence completely, continues to show up on this Jets team. I mean, even if you look at their offense, I'm pretty sure their success rate is pretty high compared to an 0-5 team, which they are the only 0-5 team. It's weird looking at their numbers. It's kind of confusing because they're 10th in success rate on offense. 10th. I mean, that's doesn't say 0-5. So yeah. It's a scary team, but I'm not going to put my money on. Let's move into the next game, Marco. And we'll do this just by DraftKings order. The Cardinals Colts -7. Even with a little juice right now with the Kyler Murray news, total 46.5. I have a play. I'm going with the Cardinals. I mean, Cat was out of the bag. Murray has to play. So just don't bet it yet. Just make sure. I did take a bet on it, but I, probably should have waited too, but it is what it is. I can tease out of it if I want. The thing about the Cardinals and Colts is you're looking at a team that the market is super high on and a team that the market is extremely low on. A couple things about the Colts. They should have lost to the Broncos that day. Maybe they should have beat the Rams too, though. Yeah. They make some boneheaded mistakes. But this Colts team runs the ball, and that's how they kind of set up the success of their quarterback there in Danny Dimes. Well, if Cardinals do one dang thing good, it's stopping the run. They're number 5 in opponent rush EPA, and that's where they kind of force people into passing the ball. They've had some really good drafts over the past 2 or 3 years just for being in bad positions and trading out of that. It's just a simple play of when the market's too high and too low. And actually, my numbers do say I'm starting to kind of lean towards the Cardinals at this, as long as Kyler Murray plays. Jacoby Brissett would be next. I'm not so sure about him. Maybe at the 8.5 or something, I would look at him. And I think it would move to 9, actually, if he's off. But McBride is such a good tight end and such a good option for this team. And Marvin Harrison Jr., when he's got his head out of his ass, dude, they could backdoor any team. And the Colts defense isn't that great, in my opinion. And when they do get a pass rush, if Murray's foot's okay, he's going to escape. I'm going to put this as an official play. Caveat Murray plays at +7. And, I'll do that for 2 stars. But obviously, it sucks that I did get the news today that Murray was sitting again. I just think it's precautionary, Marco.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I haven't made an official play on this game. I will tell you that if I do, I agree with you. It's the Arizona side or pass. I'm kind of fond of this Colts team. This is a team that, every season preview show that I did, I picked Indianapolis to win the division. Okay. I took them over Houston, over Jacksonville. I thought that, this team, they got a good offensive line. Their defense, not great, but not bad. And if they got any consistency at the quarterback position, I thought they were going to be a good team. And I'm not going to kid anybody and think that say that I knew Daniel Jones was going to do this. What I did know is that at some point in time, he was going to be the starting quarterback. Didn't realize that they would, have the season start with him. And he's had a great start to the season. What was it? They only had like 1 punt through the first 2 or 3 games. It was insane how efficient this offense went. But I agree with you. It's strictly from a market standpoint. You can't get any higher on Indianapolis than they are right now, is in the eyes of the market. And Arizona, after that complete and utter collapse last week, nobody wants any part of them. And they did it twice. Okay. I mean, last week was really bad, but that Thursday night game, they were getting beat soundly the entire game. And they come back and,
made it a game.
Yeah, made it a game and then, choked it away again, let them go right back down the field. Yeah. So Arizona's got problems, and I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's on the sidelines is where it starts.
That's right. And one more quick thing, the Colts lost their kicker, and not saying that there's not kickers on the shelf, but it's always different, so that could factor in as well. Browns against your Steelers, and we're looking at 5.5 now. And it totals 37.5. It's looking like Dylan Gabriel is number 1. I assume Shedeur is number 2. Should it matter? I mean, I expect Dylan to play the whole game. Dylan showed some flashes. I think he's a competent kid. I don't think he's an NFL talent. I think he's a possibly good backup. But he's kind of trying to prove himself right now. You got a great defense, like you said. What do you think about this game?
Well, I'll say this much as far as the Cleveland quarterback situation goes. I saw a meme on X that just made me absolutely laugh out loud. Somebody put the Cleveland Browns QB depth chart. Dylan Gabriel was listed first. Second was a player to be named later. And then Shedeur Sanders third.
Cold-blooded, man.
Yeah, Dylan Gabriel, you're absolutely correct. The game last week in Minnesota or against Minnesota in London, he wasn't fantastic, but what he is he did have a clean game, no turnovers in the game, and that was his first start. Now you're going to have 2 full weeks of getting the first repetition snaps in practice all week. Game plan going to be designed for you. They'll look at that first game, see what worked well, what didn't work, and maybe add more to the playbook. You got to spoon feed rookies and how much you want them to do. And I have an adage, that I do it in college football. I do it in the NFL. If I have the better defense getting points, I'm generally going to line up on that team. And that team clearly is Cleveland with the better defense. Now, you're going to have so many guys that, I love they log the schedule out for the whole year and they put days rest, for each team when they play, that week, what it is. So those guys are going to like Pittsburgh this week because they're going to, they've had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. Cleveland got screwed by the NFL having to go to London and then not have a bye week the following week, which is usually the norm for these teams going, across the pond.
I think that's why you see the number where it's at is that difference, one coming off the bye, one doing the travel, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, as far as bye weeks go, you got obviously a couple of teams that are coming off buys this week. I generally look at it, if you go into the bye on a good note, I look at it as a negative. That's a momentum stopper. Whereas if you go into the bye week and you're not doing well, you're going to work harder in that bye week and you're going to change some things because you have that extra time to do it. And I like to look at teams that went into the bye bad. Pittsburgh went into the bye winning 2 games in a row. And so they're feeling confident about themselves. But let me tell you, those wins, and I'm 3-0 going with or against Pittsburgh this year. So knock on wood, we went against them the first 2 weeks. I had them in the game against Minnesota, and we were life and death. And you want to talk about guys that still make bad decisions. And, I'm tired of hearing about his record, Mike Tomlin, no losing seasons. That game, he had 2 crucial decisions that he made in that game. He bypassed kicking a field goal and went for it on 4th down when he could have made it a 6-point game where you didn't have to sweat a field goal to tie the game. He bypassed it on 4th and 2 or 3. I think he got talked into it because Rodgers kept motioning him off, waving it off like a pitcher, shaking off the catcher if he wanted a different pitch. And they went for it there. Then later in the game, when they were just crossed midfield, they had a 4th and 1 and he punts it away where 1st down ends the game and you didn't have to sweat Minnesota getting the ball back. So he's a great preparation coach, but once you get to the end game, he gets out coached every single time. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Cleveland plus the points here.
Right.
In a perfect world, 21-20 Pittsburgh. And then I'll be, hey, I got away with that one in the Jets game the first week of the season. I had the Jets plus 2.5, and Pittsburgh wins but doesn't cover. So it can happen, but I'm clearly on the Browns this week.
Wow, was that an outlier of a game first week? I heard your phone buzzing over there. Hopefully he's not calling you, man. Or maybe you're a horse trainer out in Pittsburgh and need some money or something. Don't answer that. Let's move on to the next game. Rams, Baltimore. I'm passing. Here's the thing. I don't know anything about the injuries yet. What if Lamar does pop back on Saturday? They're not going to tell you about it. They want to prepare properly, or Roquan Smith even is a big factor to this defense. I'm passing.
I agree with you 100%. I got sucked into the backup injured player theory last week with Cooper Rush, and I can't do that again because that was ugly. And again, it's the defense. The defense has been, we're so used to the Baltimore teams, in their glory days that, it was led by the defense. And the last couple of years, it just doesn't work. And I think part of that, now you go different tempo when you have Cooper Rush, but when you have Lamar Jackson and you try to go a little bit up tempo, all that does is get your defense back out on the field that much quicker.
Agreed.
I'm just,
Agreed.
I just, there's problems in Baltimore right now, and I'm not sure, where to totally put the blame. Do I want to put it on the defense? Do I want to put it on Lamar and him not being 100%, or do I want to put it on Harbaugh? At some point in time, he's going to have to take some accountability as well.
It's a teaser leg probably at the most for me right now, but I know that Lamar's probably not playing, but just waiting a little bit longer. Another one I'm passing on is the Chargers versus the Dolphins, and it's for two simple reasons. The Chargers have cluster injuries on their offensive line, yet they have the way better coach. So it's kind of like, what the hell am I going to deal with here? I don't want anything to do with this game.
Yeah, the injuries are definitely a big problem. Not only do they have the better coach, and it's not even close, they got the better quarterback by far. Okay. Tua's not
drafted in the same class. In the same class,
Justin Herbert. If this, let's put it this way. If I'm playing, I'm laying the points with the Chargers, but like you, with the cluster injuries, it's kind of hard to take a team, on the road, West Coast team playing in the Eastern time zone and everything, all of those things as well. But it's Chargers or pass.
Patriots Saints, another beauty for you. This game is interesting because the Patriots are in a letdown spot, but kind of the Saints are too. They got their first win. It's like, I don't know what's gonna. I feel like maybe an under in this situation. The Saints have a little bit more momentum going for you. They're not quite as bad as I thought, and Rattler's been a better quarterback than I assumed, but they're still playing with some pretty bad players there. And the Patriots, their good cornerback is still on the shelf a little bit. He's back to not practicing. So it's tough at the 3.5 for me. I guess my numbers say Patriots, but my brain says if I had to bet it, I'd take the 3.5. So it's just one of those weird, ugly, stay away.
I agree with you. There's no scenario that tells me to take New England in this one. That was such a big game for them, playing on Sunday night, getting the win. And we knew the team was going to be better with Vrabel as, the head coach. That hire last year was ridiculous for New England, and they knew how bad it was. It was one and done. Yep. You don't give a guy even a second year to try to rebuild anything. So they will be better, but I don't know how he gets them to avoid the letdown after beating Buffalo the way they did. And Drake May played fantastic,
Yeah.
This is a guy that, he didn't get, he's a second-year QB, but remember, he never got on the field till late in the season last year. This guy's not – he hasn't had a full season of games yet. He's still developing and he's still getting better. They're clearly, in my eyes, the second best team in the AFC East.
All right. Well, that's for sure. Now here's one we kind of missed. It's, I guess we can say it now. It's still in the 10 o'clock time frame for our time. The Cowboys at the Panthers. I was looking at the Circa numbers coming out, and they smartly put a 3 out there. I'm going to tell you, I had a better number than that, but that number's gone, so I'm not giving it out as a 3. But I do like the Panthers. I'd like them to keep it within 3 points. I think the Panthers are a motivated team. I think they're finally gelling and playing better together. I think the Cowboys, a little fluky, playing the Jets last week. We saw this Cowboys, how they played against the Bears. It can be pretty ugly with them too. More of a flat spot for the Cowboys, and sure, their offense has been picking it up, but they've also had some injury woes with CeeDee Lamb. How long can this keep going? I don't think long. I'd like to at 3.5, but at 3, it's a pass.
I like them. I took them at 3. Obviously, the 3.5 would have been a better number, but we're moving to a number where I'm not going to lose the game. Okay, we missed the half. We ends at 3. We push the game. We just don't win it. So
Sure.
it's a bigger deal. It's a bigger deal if the number was 3 all week and we missed it and it's 2.5. That's a totally different story. You're putting yourself into a losing position. I like Carolina, and it's all about the spot. Every sharp I know last week was on the Jets, including me, because we were going against the Cowboys off the Sunday night football game. We know all the hype that game had leading up to it because, of Micah Parsons coming back to Dallas and everything else. And they end up playing in a shootout, a 40-40 tie. They were right for the letdown. There's no question about it. It's just the Jets are that bad and couldn't get out of their own way. This week now they got to go on the road for a second week, but I'm also looking, Kiev, I always look at who you're coming off of, but I also look ahead to who you're playing next. And Dallas has a big division game against Washington, one of their rivals in the NFC East. And I just think this is a horrible spot for them in the second week in a row. And why is that line 3? Why is it not 3.5? This is America's team. They score a bunch of points. When I try to look at the number and read the number and say, hey, which side of the of that key number should this be at? And the fact that they're putting it 3, knowing they're going to get more Dallas money than Carolina money, tells me Carolina's the right side. And I agree with you. I'm on them.
I mean, Carolina 21st in offensive EPA, but that's been improving. Their defense is actually ranked a few points higher than the Cowboys in EPA. Cowboys are 23rd, they're 20th. This is an improving Carolina team. And speaking of the Jets last week, sharp play. I teased the Jets and lost. All right. They crushed my teaser, my man. So
yeah, I'm with you, my friend. I'm with you. The other leg was a winner, and Jets destroyed it.
Oh, yeah. The other leg was Tampa. So yeah, I was definitely a winner, my man. Until it lost. I love the play, and to be honest with you, I'm probably still playing him at +3 when it comes to Circa Millions. Let's move on to the next game. Going back down, we have the Seahawks at the Jaguars. Kind of hinted in the beginning again, Marco. I'm taking the Jaguars. I'm taking the Seahawks. I'm selling high in the Jaguars. My numbers say the Seahawks are better. I don't have a ton of trust for Darnold, but now the Jaguars are in a massive letdown spot, piled on with a short week, and they're facing a team that's not in their division. It's more of a kind of a take it easy spot for them. The Seahawks coming off pissed off a loss. They probably shouldn't have lost. Some screw ups there. The interception by Darnold off the dude's helmet. Just a tough situation. Reminded me of their week 1 loss. What happened after the week 1 loss? They went and kicked the Steelers' ass, and then they won a couple extra games. They looked good in Arizona when I saw them. I do believe the Steelers get this game. I mean, the Seahawks get this game. And I think the Seahawks, if at the end of the year, I think these two teams might be pretty dang close if the Jaguars quit making boneheaded mistakes. But I do like the coach for the Seahawks, and I think they have the skill to get it done and to spy Trevor Lawrence and get a few picks. So I'm taking the Seahawks straight up.
I like him as well. This is a play I gave out on the show that we do at WagerTalk. Bet on it. This is just a massive bad spot for Jacksonville. Jacksonville got the win against Kansas City. Anytime you beat Kansas City, that's a monumental game for any team. Then the fact that you did it on Monday Night Football and it was at home. How many times is Jacksonville even on Monday Night Football, let alone get a home game and win it in the fashion that they won it last week? Yeah, this is a massive letdown spot. And then look at what they have. You said the short week. Guess what's after this game? They go across the pond, okay? They play in London. So, this is, to me, the sandwich of all sandwiches. And what I like to call, too, is when a team like Jacksonville, they were 3-1 going into that game on Monday night, better record than Kansas City, but people looked at the 3-1 and said, oh, well, they played this team, they played that team. They were lucky in this game. They weren't getting any love. The Monday night win was what I like to refer to, is their statement game, or to betting market, it was the legitimizer. Now people are looking at them totally different and say, you know what, maybe I was wrong on this Jacksonville team. They're legit. And that's just the minute everybody jumps on a bandwagon for the flavor of the week. We don't even go flavor of the month anymore. It changes weekly. They are definitely the flavor this week, and I'm going against them. And you talk about Seattle being at 3-2. They're really, literally 2 plays away from they could be 5-0. Think about, the first game that they lost. And think about what happened last week. And I know Sam Darnold gets a lot of grief, but here's the thing. Since the start of last season, regular season games he started, his team 17-5. 17-5. We'll just let that sit there.
All right. Well, that's a lot. And that's especially what he did last year. Now, when it comes playoff time, probably not playing Darnold.
Well, okay. Yeah. We don't put the horse in front, put the cart in front of the horse. We're talking regular season.
Titans, Raiders minus 4.5, total 41.5. I laid it, my friend. This is the spot where the Raiders have to get right. And Pete Carroll, maybe he's past his prime, old 73-year-old dude. Look, Geno Smith can play. This Titans team is coming off a game they had no freaking business winning. And it's just, there's 2 sides to every coin, right? They're coming to Vegas. They got the monkey off their back that they're not going to be the team that's, doesn't win a game. They're not that talented. Their defense is freaking terrible. The Raiders, as bad as they're playing with their offensive line, I think they roll out Geno a little bit more. They get it to some of those pretty good receivers that they have there. I know Bauer's probably out, but Mayer's a damn good tight end too. If you remember when he played for Notre Dame, we thought that he would be the best tight end, but he just got hurt that first year. Mayer's a dang good tight end, so I don't have a problem with that. And obviously with the Raiders, they have to still establish the run in a little bit with Genty. But if Genty's going to go off, it's against this terrible Titans team. I think they win with margin.
I can't disagree with you, but I can't get to the window either. I've seen too much of the Raiders, and it's been bad. And the concern is we knew the offensive line was bad coming into the season, and I thought that's what they should have addressed with their first round draft pick. Genty was a reach at 6. He's not big enough to be an everyday, every down back in the NFL. And he's had some better games the last couple. But what's happened to the Raider defense? That was supposed to be the strong suit of this team. Now, granted, it should look better this week against a Tennessee team that, can't move the football. But I just don't trust the Raiders. And I can tell you right now, everybody looked at the games last week, saw what happened and how, Tennessee won that game. Anybody that's still in Survivor and haven't used the Raiders, they're going to look at the Raiders this week. There's no question about it. And I hate being involved.
I thought about it. I'm thinking about it too, but I'm probably not getting to the Raiders. There's another team out there that doesn't have another good spot to use. That's, I think you can figure that one out. Let's move on to the next game. And we have the Niners at Bucks. Here's the deal. It's -3, -120. It's hard to figure this Niners team out right now because here's the thing. I almost bet them last Thursday and I got talked off from some sharp people and they were wrong. I was right. I was wrong enough to not bet it though. Here's the thing. I've always known Mac Jones was a better quarterback than what he was. He was with Belichick for a while, and all that. It's been going lately. He went to the Jaguars when the Jaguars had no coaching. I just remember him in Bama, and I'm like, there is no difference between him and Brock Purdy, in my opinion. As a matter of fact, in perfect situations, I wonder if Mac Jones, who should have been the original draft pick from the Niners, might end up turning up a little bit better. So they did their job. This Shanahan coach is a better coach. And here's the thing. The Bucks, they're damn good when they're coming back, but they are not good with holding the freaking lead, and they're laying points. They're laying 3. I'm staying away. I could see people teasing the Niners, but I don't know.
The Niners, what they did on Thursday night with all of the cluster injuries that they had, and I wanted to get to the Niners, get to the window with them. I did not end up using the game, and I was kicking myself afterwards because I thought they moved the line way too much. But when we've just been, brainwashed over our betting careers that when you have one injury to a key player, it's okay to take that injured team. They over adjust the line because of it, and the rest of the team rises to the occasion, gives that, 110%, so to speak, to try to compensate for the loss. But when you get into cluster injuries on one side of the football, all the receivers that they were decimated with and your quarterback being down. But I agree with you. Brock Purdy, even when he was in, the season, the games that he played, he did not look good at all. Mac Jones has been the better quarterback by far, and it's going to be an interesting situation, when Brock Purdy's healthy. If Mac Jones, plays, another game or two and continues to put up the numbers he is, I would have to really think about Mac Jones being the quarterback.
They just paid Purdy $250 million. They can't do that. Even if he's worse. But here's the thing. He's not going to be worse, but he's not going to be as good as Mac Jones. They're going to go with him. And if he's really screwing up at the end of the year and they have a shot to make the playoffs with 3 to 5 games left, then they make the switch. But, dude, they embarrassingly did that, just like they had that horrible draft quarterback pick and Lance a couple of years ago, right? That was a terrible pick. And, man, how do you just pay Purdy? You got to get through the guaranteed part of that money. I think they effed up big time. Bengals, Packers, 14? Dude, I'm not doing – look, everyone thinks Survivor. Maybe that's my Survivor. I think the fact that Joe Flacco's coming in is scaring people off using it Survivor, so maybe you do get an edge by using this. I don't know. The Packers are coming off –
How much of the playbook can he know, though, for this week?
He's such a good veteran. I seen him walk onto another team, and was it the Colts last year, and he came in and won? I forgot who it was. They signed him off the shelf and just kicked ass. But look, this is a different offensive line. He's going to get killed against a team that tied the Cowboys and lost to the Browns. That's in their memory. Then they go into a bye week pissed off. This is why it's 14, and I'm not taking the Bengals, but I'm also probably not laying it with the Packers either.
I agree with you. Green Bay, they should roll against the Cincinnati defense and get a big lead. And that's the other problem is if they do get a lead, what's Flacco going to do whenever he's got to throw it on every down and you just got there and he's not mobile at all. I mean, you and I are as mobile as Joe Flacco is. So I can't play this game. This is a game I just want to watch. I want to see what I want to see out of this game is how comfortable Joe Flacco gets in this offense when they give him a little bit of time. And then is it next week or the week after? Cincinnati they play Cleveland. That's going to be a fun game when that happens. Okay.
if they give him a little time, I don't think he's going to get much time this game.
Right.
Like I said, nothing left to say in this one. I just, it's a desperation move, and people were saying Jameis Winston, but you've seen Jameis play, and it's not like he's not going to throw a bunch of picks under that. First of all, there's nobody that can sit behind that offensive line, not even Joe Burrow. This was a bad year, and a probably good thing that Joe Burrow's sitting out because, he would look bad if he was healthy, in my opinion. Zach Taylor's got to go. This whole Bengals front office has to go. They completely screwed it up. Lions, Chiefs minus 2.5, total 52.5. Lions, the best covering team at 4-1. Dude, when I bet against the Chiefs and I lose because of some damn flag, I am extra pissed, Marco, extra pissed. And I'm sick of it. I don't know what to get, but here's the thing. The Chiefs try to study the rule book to say, oh, he's within 1 yard. Just for doing that shit, they should get flags, man. Come on. You're pulling that. Just you have to be controversial constantly.
Yeah. God, but on the same token, they got a major call in that game on Monday night. The interception they got off of Trevor Lawrence deep in Jacksonville territory where he threw the ball right to a Kansas City defender. The reason he threw it right to the Kansas City defender is his receiver got caught in a pick. and they should have called Kansas City for the flag there. The announcers, they went to commercial because it was a change of possession. They come back. Both announcers were beside themselves, and they even pulled in the rules analyst guy.
You mean Jacksonville was in a pick and then Kansas City intercepted it, right?
Yeah, Jacksonville receiver got knocked off his route, and it was past the 5 yards.
And then you see all this shit on Twitter. Oh, he's within 5 yards. He's allowed to be jammed. He was exactly at the 5 yard marker, but I don't think you're allowed to be picked. You're allowed to be touched, but not picked at 5 yards. It's like, it was absolutely insane going on. And yes, they did get one. And then Trevor Lawrence should have scored when he reached it over and Jones knocked it out. And dude, I don't know what to expect on a 2-3 Chiefs team here. And the Lions are better. They're better. And they should win this game. They actually have a good road ref too, Rolstad too. I teased the Lions. I teased them to 8.5. I think it's a wonderful teaser leg.
There's no question about it. That's where I had to do a show this morning. I do it in Lincoln, Nebraska. So I get to pick the games I want to do for the show for them. Except I always have to do the Nebraska game, and I always got to do the Kansas City Chief game. But I can pick the rest of the card to break down. And I said on the show, I think Kansas City finds a way to win this game. And as long as the line is under 3, if I'm making a straight bet, I'm betting Kansas City, but I don't know that I'm going to make a straight bet. The bet that I will make is going to be you have to take, Detroit, in your teaser legs. Now, it's the perfect number for a teaser, for the 6-point teaser, because it's 2.5. You get it over the, all the key numbers of 3, 4, 6, and 7, and the 8, with sometimes, teams going for 2. But it also is a game with a high total. And generally speaking, the Wong teasers are better the lower the total is. But if Kansas City wins, I don't see Kansas City winning by double digits. That's the whole key, to this game. We know the history of the Chiefs and all those one possession type games that they're known for. And even if they are winning by 2 scores, Detroit's never giving up. They're always, throwing the football and attacking. The back door would always be open on your teaser bet. So that is the logical and the safest bet in this game.
Agreed. And, the Lions are better metrically than the Chiefs. There is no freaking metric that says the Lions should not be at least pick 'em or favored in this game. But the reason the Chiefs are favored is because that's what the market's saying. And I think the calls and a lot of things that people believe in, home field and Chiefs being, 2-3 is what this number is. I don't think the number's right, but do I have the balls to take the Lions plus 2.5? No, at least not right now. I might do it in the contest. I don't know.
The one thing that you saw in the last 2 weeks that the offense, and that's the thing about doing season numbers. Okay. You got to do, to me, you have to look at numbers on a sliding fashion. Look at the last 4 games, because what you saw from the Chiefs in the first 3 games, and they had some tough, it wasn't an easy schedule either, but they were without Xavier Worthy. And they are a totally different team when he's on the field and when he's off, because when he's on the field, he's going to command the double coverage, and it's going to leave other guys open. And we've seen, former Steeler Juju Smith get more in the offense because he's, those secondary receivers are going to be the guys that are going to be open. And also just having Xavier Worthy on the field helped the running game. The last couple of weeks, the running game has improved for Kansas City because, again, you've got to, he stretches the field. It changes the defenses that, they got to go into, to get their coverages on him, and it opens up the running game. Mahomes at home on a Sunday night, good luck.
And that's why I'm not betting aside, and I hate losing on him, so I'm not. Even though I see a number that's wrong. Is it wrong? I don't know, because of all the points you just made. And the Chiefs also on a short week, so throw that in there. Throw that in there, and they're still laying 2.5.
And Detroit's on second week in a row on the road, so that kind of helps a little bit if we're negative on the Detroit side.
Monday night, Bills, Falcons, plus 4.5, total 49.5. Marco, you have the floor.
I've been back and forth on the side in this game. Buffalo, you would think that they would go in there with their offense and just score points. And I don't know that Atlanta with Michael Penix Jr. is ready to trade points with a team like, Buffalo and Josh Allen. But I think they're going to be able to score some points. The Buffalo defense has shown us some problems this year, that they are vulnerable. Will I have a side? Probably not. Will I play the total? Probably. Will it be the under? No. There's no way I can bet the under in this game. So for me, it's over or past this game at this point in time.
It's at 49.5. Well, it's under 51. It's moving that direction, -118. It's going to be 50 soon. By Monday, it'll be at 50.5, 51 by game time.
If you're betting the over, you bet it now, because when the public gets involved on Monday night, there's only one way that they're going to play the game, and it's going to drive it up.
Dude, I'm going to hold my nose and bet the Falcons at the 4.5, and I hate it, but dude, Milano's probably out again, and Ed Oliver. The reason I have such hesitation is that freaking coach is awful, Raheem Morris. He is the worst coach in the NFL right now, and this Falcons team would have been way better the last few years without him. But here's the thing, man. This Bills team, they suffered a loss, and it wasn't they didn't look great. They haven't looked great to me all year, and maybe I'm blind, but they should have never been in that Ravens game. Josh Allen's great at coming back. It's 4.5. It's not 2.5. It's not 3. It's 4.5, man. And the Falcons are loaded on offense, and they're coming off a bye. So it's just like a spot where I bet it. Would I be shocked if I lost? No. My numbers say 2. It should be. And we all are disagreeing on numbers too, because I talk to a lot of sharp people, some people at your outfit too. And, we all have some of the stuff we line up on perfectly. Some of the stuff we really disagree on, but I just have Atlanta as a 3-point in my power ratings, and my algorithm is actually a little closer at 2. So it's just a play I'm going to make. I'm not loving it, but I'll have my options a little bit later, Marco.
The other situation with this one is it's kind of the same situation as last week's game with Jacksonville. How often is Atlanta on Monday Night Football? Mm-hmm. Not often.
Okay.
They're gonna be excited, and they get a home game. Okay, that the place will be rocking on Monday night, and you got a Buffalo team coming in here. I would have liked Atlanta better if Buffalo hadn't had a loss last week. If they were, coming in fat and sassy, and you probably would have even seen this, hard to believe, but you might have seen this line higher yet if Buffalo didn't come off, that loss last week. But I agree with you. Atlanta is the side. If we're playing it, don't know I'll get there, but I think both teams are going to go up and down the field.
And when you look at it, it's like you think of how many more ways can Atlanta cover 4.5 when you know what about them, and how many ways does Buffalo cover 4.5 with that banged up Buffalo defense? There's just more ways with Atlanta right now. The Bears against the Commanders, the Fail Mary revenge game, my friend. I remember it so well because I hated Eberflus so long. And, I always have to deal with Bears fans on social media sites yelling at me when I call a coach bad. And the dude has 3 timeouts, and he leaves the game losing with 3 timeouts on the last drive of that game. I don't have to go any further. I don't know where they get these jokers, Marco. It's just ridiculous. Every week we see this shit in the NFL. But my numbers say the Commanders are a bit better than the Bears, more than this number. I just feel that the bye week, and I still love the coach there. I lean the Bears. I'm not taking it yet. Will I change my mind on Monday? I don't know, but I'm not taking this game, and I'm even a little afraid of the total too. I don't know. It's coming off the bye. It's just it makes things different when I really respect Brian Johnson.
Well, I am on this one, and it is all about the bye week. I said in the earlier game when we talked about the Steelers that I don't like them coming out of the bye going in on a good note. Well, Chicago did go into the bye with 2 wins. But what I'm going to point out, and I think having this early bye is a benefit for Chicago, and here's where I'm going with that. You have preseason. The starters don't play. You had Caleb Williams, a second-year quarterback. We talk about how often these guys regress. Well, not only would he have to overcome the sophomore jinx, he had to learn a new offense. He's got a new head coach who's supposed to be an offensive genius, changes everything around. So to me, the first 4 weeks of the season was the true preseason for Chicago. Now you had the 2 weeks to go look and see what they did with the new offense, what stuff worked well, what stuff didn't, what was the comfort zones of Caleb Williams with the different plays, tweak the plays that worked good, and add more things to his strength. I think on Monday night, you're going to see the best performance of the season thus far out of Caleb Williams. I also don't like the situation that Washington's in. They come out of their bye week, went to the West Coast, won a game against one of the teams that's supposed to be a contender for the Super Bowl in the AFC and beating the Chargers last week. And I was on Washington, so I was happy about that. But now they're returning back home, cross country, play at home. Who do they got next week? I mentioned it when we talked about the Dallas game. They've got a big game next week. I think it's a bad spot for Washington. And yes, anybody that was on that, anybody that was on that Chicago team last year remembers what happened. And, losing a game because your defender is in the corner of the end zone taunting the fans because you just, won the game and you're not covering the guy that you should have been covering in the Hail Mary play. That's just absolutely, horrendous. I like Chicago. I'm looking forward to this one. I gave it out on a few shows that I've done, and it's probably going to be a client play as well.
Well, there you go. Trying to get me excited over here. I am close. The Bears secondary is trash, but that's not always needed so much. I think Daniels is definitely a threat, but McLaurin not being there makes it a little tougher on them too. It's looking like McLaurin's going to miss again. So I'm getting there, my friend. And if I have some house money to spend, I might also play a little bit on my old Chicago Bears. Just let them disappoint me twice and not once. That's how we roll with the Bears. But no, you being on it makes me feel better about it, Marco. And beer bet banger time. This is the plus money play that we like to talk about. Throw some beer money on so we can buy more beers later, right? Just can't lose too many of them. Any long shots that you like. Anything plus money qualifies for beer bet bangers.
Okay, well, does plus 500 qualify?
Oh, sure does.
I'm taking Seattle to win the NFC West. I think that's my long shot play. And why, we talked about it. This is a team that's 3-2. They're 2 plays away from being 5-0 in reality. Both of them happen to be Sam Darnold interceptions, but you rattle one off the receiver and it's a carom for interception. Can you really put that one on him? And I mentioned the fact that the 17-5 as a starter going back to last year. And the more I see Geno Smith and what he's done here in Vegas so far, the fact that this team played decently last year and Geno is so bad. I think Sam Darnold is an upgrade. Is going to end up being a big upgrade. I think this team is undervalued, and the fact that they lost last week, that's why you can shop around and get them at plus 500. And that's my long shot beer, pizza, wing, whatever you want to do, money.
Wings are too expensive these days, man. We have to do double on that one.
Well, you hit a plus 500. You can order some extra wings. The only problem is you got to wait a while to cash that ticket.
That's right. No, I don't disagree with you. Seattle's kind of looking a little bit better for me too. 2 weeks ago I was like, why is my numbers say it was so high on Seattle? And now I'm kind of seeing why and what they are about. And it's good that they had that loss, so we can get on them this week in Jacksonville too. So I'm loving that.
Their defense has played well. They've held opponents down for most of the games.
Yeah.
It's a mess in San Francisco. Yeah, they're 4-1, but it's with the injuries they have, they're no lock. And as we said, they're going to have to go back to Brock Purdy. They don't have a choice, even though at this point in time, he's not the best quarterback on the roster in current form. They have to go back to him, and that's going to be a liability. In the Rams, that would be everybody's, pick if somebody's going to fall. If the 49ers are not going to get there, everybody assumes it'll be the Rams. The Rams are one hit away from, Stafford, missing time. You never know what you're going to get there with the back situation.
Perfect segue into my beer bet banger, 30-1, Marco. Daniel Jones to win MVP. Dude, that is a better story. He can't do comeback of the year now because they kind of eliminated. You can't come back from nothing, right? You can't come back from being benched. The last person that got that was Geno, and everybody was up in arms about it. Now, there's some good candidates for comeback player, that Aiden Hutchinson, people that were injured. But, dude, and that's another one. But the MVP thing, Lamar's probably out. Maybe he comes back and wins the division. They give it to him, but he's won it. The story on Allen, he won it last year. I mean, it's not like it's a lot of people like stories. These are journalists that vote on it. The best story right now is Danny Dimes, and at 30-1, you look at that schedule with the Colts. That's one hell of a, was it fourth place schedule? It's a schedule that's just going to boast his stats throughout the whole rest of the year, Marco. And I honestly believe, he's going to have some defenses that he's going to be playing against that are very fortunate for him. After he gets done with Arizona here, he's going to go against a banged up Chargers team, and then Titans again, put the numbers against the Titans at Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's got a bad secondary. The home against Atlanta, a little bit more tricky, at Kansas City, then Houston, at Jacksonville, at Seattle, versus San Fran, who's got a rough defense now, Jacksonville. I think that just in this division itself is going to give him a pathway to this MVP. And if somehow this team sneaks into the number one seed in the AFC past the Bills, I that's my hedge to this bet too, man, because I bet that the Bills at plus 300 is going to be the number one seed in the AFC. If it's the Colts, you got to give it to Danny Dimes.
You do. I agree with you 100%. And he's got all of the pieces that you want for a good offense. He's got a great offensive line. He's got a good running back, although he's, on the backside of his career, Jonathan Taylor's still
Badger, former Badger, baby. We don't got much to smile about lately, so I need to say that.
He's making the throws. And their defense is not elite, but it's not bad. So I agree with you. That's a good bet. I might have to grab a little bit of that because my MVP ticket got crushed the second week of the season when Joe Burrow went down. I thought this was his year because he would have to put up, video game type stats to compensate for how bad the Cincinnati defense, was.
Oh yeah.
And if he got them to the playoffs, I thought, because he hasn't gotten that MVP ticket yet. In like you said, this is something that's not decided by a number; it's decided by votes, and the human element comes in there. And sometimes these guys, if it's a toss-up, they throw their vote to the guy that hasn't won it yet.
Yes, I agree, and that's part of the reason. And another good bet is to check out this man, Marco, one of the sharpest and most experienced men I know in sports betting. Marco, can you tell our listeners where they can get your great information in place?
Yeah, absolutely. You can follow me on X and Twitter, formerly Twitter, Marco in Vegas. You want to see all the videos and different shows that we do, check out the WagerTalk TV YouTube channel. We have videos up from everybody. And shameless plug for me, The two favorite shows for me is we do the college and pro editions of Bet On It. That's our flagship show over at WagerTalk. Myself, Vegas Runner, and Kelly and Stewart, we're on that show. Love doing that show, the three of us. And then I started a video last year, Kiev. We brought it back this year. It's Marco's Deli. I like those sandwich spot games and trap games and stuff like that. We do that show every week. It comes out on Thursday. It's out today. I recorded it this morning, and we've been given 5 games a week on that show. We've had 5 episodes so far. 4 of the 5 weeks were winning weeks. We're 16-9 with that 5-game format. Generally, it's 4 college and 1 NFL play. Check it out. Free winners. And the beauty of that show, Kiev, is I don't just say, hey, take this game. I go through my handicapping process. Yes. So it's like, it's like a handicapping lesson in addition to giving you free plays.
And that's what people need these days to get ahead of the books. Make sure you check out Marco D'Angelo and WagerTalk. Follow him at Marco in Vegas. Thanks a lot, Marco. Best of luck this weekend. We'll be talking.
No problem. Always love doing your show.